Everyone told you that being different was a gift, that standing out from your family meant you were special, chosen even, that the one who breaks the mold is the brave one, the evolved one, the one who finally got it right. And maybe part of you believed that for a while. But there's something nobody talks about, something that lives underneath the pride and the identity and the carefully constructed independence. A pressure so quiet, so constant, you stopped noticing it was there. This is not a story about being brave. This is a story about what it actually costs to be the different one.
There's a story your family tells about you. Maybe it's said with admiration, maybe with confusion, maybe with a kind of proud bewilderment. We never quite understood where you came from. And the world reinforces it. Culture celebrates the outlier, the black sheep turned visionary, the one who left the small town and built something, the one who asked questions no one else dared to ask. So the myth takes shape early. Being different is a blessing. And it is, in some ways. That difference was real. Your curiosity, your sensitivity, your unwillingness to simply inherit a life without examining it, those things were never wrong. But myths are seductive precisely because they hold a grain of truth while hiding everything underneath. The myth of the special one tells you that your differentness is a position of strength, that you stand above, or at least outside, that the distance between you and your family is a sign of growth, not grief. What it doesn't tell you, what no one tells you, is that being the different one is also a kind of loneliness that doesn't have a clean name. It's the loneliness of sitting at a table full of people who share a language you no longer fully speak. The loneliness of being celebrated for the very thing that separates you. You may have felt this in moments when you returned home.
Myths don't form by accident. They form because they protect something. Your family needed a story to hold the disruption you represented. If you were special, if your difference was a gift, a quirk, a sign of destiny, then it wasn't a rupture. It wasn't a reflection of anything uncomfortable. It was just you, being you. And you needed the myth too, because the alternative, that your differentness was born from pain, from necessity, from the quiet desperation to become someone who wouldn't repeat what you witnessed, that's a harder story to live inside. So both sides agreed, without ever speaking, to call it a gift. Families are remarkably skilled at building shared fictions, not out of malice, out of survival. The myth of the special one keeps the peace. It lets everyone feel okay about the distance. It turns your leaving, emotionally, physically, ideologically, into something noble rather than something that required mourning. But here's what myths cost you when you believe them too long. They prevent you from naming what's actually happening. If being different is purely a gift, then why does it sometimes feel like a sentence? Why does every holiday visit carry that low hum of tension, the effort of translation, the careful softening of your edges so you don't make anyone uncomfortable just by existing as yourself? The myth told you to be grateful. It never gave you permission to be tired. And you have been so tired, haven't you?
Here is what is actually true. Being the different one in your family is not just a personality trait. It is a role. And roles, unlike traits, come with invisible job descriptions. When you are the different one, you are often also the one who carried something forward that needed to change. A pattern, a silence, a way of relating to the world that was inherited but never chosen. That's not small work. That is often the heaviest work a person can do. And it almost always begins before you have the language to describe it. You became different, in many cases, because something in you refused.
Refuse to shrink in the way you were shown. Refuse to settle for the explanation that was handed down. Refuse to let a wound continue its quiet journey through the generations without stopping to look at it. That refusal is remarkable. But it also means you have been carrying a weight that doesn't belong only to you. Think of it like this. Imagine a river that has been flowing in the same direction for 100 years. You are the stone that interrupted the current. That takes force. That takes something out of you, even when the redirection is necessary, even when it's right. And yet no one in your family may have ever said, "Thank you for stopping here. Thank you for asking the question that no one before you was willing to ask." Instead, the silence continued, and the weight was yours to carry without acknowledgement. What do you do with weight that has no name?
There is a particular kind of exhaustion that belongs to the different one. It doesn't look like burnout. It doesn't always feel like sadness. It moves more like a quiet leak, something slowly draining from a place you can't quite locate. It shows up in the way you over-explain yourself to people who knew you as a child, as if you were still trying to earn the right to be who you became. It shows up in the guilt that follows a boundary, even a gentle one, because setting a limit with family feels like another act of separation in a story that already has too much distance. It shows up in the moments when you achieve something real, something meaningful, and the celebration inside you is immediately followed by a strange, hollow feeling. Who do I share this with? Who will truly understand what it took? That hollow feeling is grief, not for a loss that happened all at once, but for the slow, continuous loss of being fully known by the people who were there at the beginning. Being the different one means you grew toward a light that your family of origin may not have been standing in, and the growing was necessary, and the growing was right. But it also meant growing away. And grief is the appropriate response to that. Not shame, not confusion, not the relentless reframing of it as strength. Sometimes the honest thing is simply this. It has cost you something real. There is a moment, it arrives differently for everyone, when the story shifts. It's not a dramatic revelation. It rarely is. It's quieter than that. It's the moment you stop defending your difference and start simply living it. Stop explaining it. Stop apologizing for it. Stop performing it as identity and let it settle into something more like nature. Your difference was never about being better. It was never about leaving your family behind in some triumphant escape. It was about becoming someone who could finally hold both things at once. The family you came from, with all its patterns and silences and inherited wounds, and the person you built yourself into, slowly, sometimes painfully, in the years that followed. The healing perspective isn't one of separation, it's one of integration. Not returning to who you were, not erasing what you've become, but finding the quiet place where you can say, I came from there, and I became this. And both things are true at the same time, and neither one cancels the other out. The pressure lifts, not all at once, but gradually, when you stop needing your family to understand the journey, when you release the hope that the validation will eventually come from the people who were there at the beginning. Some of them may never have the language for what you did. That is a real loss. You are allowed to grieve it. And you are also allowed to recognize that the life you have been quietly, stubbornly, courageously building, the one that looks so different from where you started, was never a betrayal. It was always